Hi there, welcome to another episode. Today we're going to look at working with forms in the dialer. It's basically the information that you want the agent to see. Okay, so you can have, like, for example, their name, their surname, their title, email address, etc. Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to log in to the dialer. We'll get started with it. So we'll log in with my username. Okay, I'm going to go to campaigns and I'm going to create a brand new freestyle campaign, which is a blank canvas for me, so I can show you the different options. Okay, so once we've done that, we're going to go to the form. Okay, and if I go to the preview, we can see now that I have, in effect, a blank canvas. I don't have any options on there at all. Okay, so we're going to add in an option on the form. We can do that by clicking on this plus here on the right hand side to add an element. And you can see here that we've got different options. We have the text field, drop downs, radio buttons, checkboxes, a checkbox group. We have date field, calendar fields, number, phone number, text area, autocomplete, HTML, a button, a recording button, and then an external web page. So you can put what they call an iframe, which is where you have a web page within the actual dialer screen. You can use that to sort of check information. The only thing with the iframes, you can't have a forward and backwards button. Okay, it's not like a normal browser. It doesn't have a forward and backwards button. But as I say, you can just display, if you've got a static page, for example, you can display that in that iframe. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to crack on. We're going to just do a simple form. So I'm going to do here a drop down. Okay. You can see here that we've got two different options. We've got here title, and then we've got this field here, right? The title is what you want the agent to see. So if we put in title, for example, okay, and this is the internal name. This is the way that the dialer recognizes that field internally, right? It's always a good idea to plan out the form that you want to create. The reason I say that is because this can be modified. So what the field title is, you can modify that at a later time, but you can't modify the field name because, as I say, that's internal with the dialer. So once you've saved it, you're stuck with that particular name. Okay. If I was to go to the tick to save those settings, you'll see here now that it's not adding any text in here. The reason is because, as I say, you can't change the internal name of it. Okay. Within this title field, okay, because it's a drop down, we're going to look at the options that we want to input into there. Right. We have the title. So this is the name or the information that the agent will see, and then the value, which is what gets saved within the dialer. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead here. I normally create in drop downs. I normally create an option with 4 dashes. So for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I leave the value blank. The reason is because if for any reason you select the drop down, okay, and then the value, you don't really want a value in there, you can't go back and make it blank without obviously closing the contacts and then losing all the information. Okay, so we can do this one here with the 4 dashes and the value is blank, and then here I'm just going to add in 3 more. So I'm going to add in Mr. and then put in Mr, Mrs, Mrs, and then Doctor and Doctor. Okay, as I say, this is what the agent will see, and this is what's saved internally. If for any reason you wanted to save, instead of having the actual name, you had the reference numbers, you could put you could just put 1, 2, and 3. Okay, if you did that, it would save this information within the dialer when one of these options is selected in the drop down. Okay, so I'm going to go and put it back to how it was. So Mr, Mrs, and Doctor. Okay, if I was to save that and then decided at a later time I wanted to change it, I can do so. It doesn't, it's not like the actual names of the fields. Here you can modify the information. All right. You'll probably notice here that we have some different icons as well. We've got this one here, which is a mandatory. It means that if it's a positive outcome, then that field has to be completed. Some people, they use the email, or they like to use the email as a mandatory field. It doesn't always work out, simply because there are people, strangely enough, that don't have an email address. Okay, normally I recommend having the mandatory fields for things such as names, surnames, phone numbers, or any data that you really need to have, and that the agent will have to gather before they can save the contact. Okay, we've got here hidden fields. We'll look at that in a moment. We have the option to create a read-only field. Okay, this is where when you import the data, the agent will only be able to read that field. They won't be able to change anything. It's usefully or normally used for like a customer number, because obviously if your customer's got a number, you don't want that, or the agent, to be able to modify that number. Okay, we've got the option here that's part of name, so this would appear in the agent section. So in the call area, it would appear to the agent. And then we've got here the option of searchable. Searchable means that if in the future you wanted to prioritize leads, okay, they need to be searchable, so you'd need to activate that option there. Searchable also means as well that you can search, or the agent can search from the call area based on these options. So they could search on the title, they could search on the name, the phone number, the region, etc. With the searchable fields, at the moment, it's only possible to select up to 5 different searchable fields. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to save that, and I'm going to go ahead and create another field, which is going to be a text field, and I'm going to put in here first name. Okay, and then I'm going to add in another field underneath, a text field, and I'll put in last name. Okay, so if I click on the tick and then go to the preview, we can see now that I've got my information here. I've got the different options here. I've got first name and last name. Okay, this option here is the line break. It basically means that if it's activated, it means that what will happen is the next field will go underneath. So imagine now that I wanted to have title, first name and last name all on the same row. I can just simply remove this line break, okay, apart from the last one. Click on the save, and if I go to the preview now, you can see that they're all on the same line because we've eliminated that line break. Okay, so what we'll do now, we'll have a look at the other fields that we can do. We've got radio groups. This is normally where it's a yes or no option, so we'll go ahead and create one of those. Are you happy with your current internet provider? Okay, you'll see here that I've put in a question mark, and in my script here, the internal name, it's put in an underline. The reason is because the internal names, they can't have any symbols or strange characters. Okay, normally as well, they won't allow you to begin with a number. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll just remove that last underscore. Okay, so we've put in the question here, are you happy with your current provider? We could just put in here yes, and then the value yes. So as again, it would be what the agent sees and what gets saved into the dialer. And we're going to add in another one, which is no and no. All right. If I was to save that and then go to the preview, you can now see that I've got my data. So I've got my title, my first name and my last name. And I've got here the question, are you happy with your current internet provider? I can just choose yes or no. Okay, I can't choose the two of them because it's a radio button, so it's either a yes or a no. So we're going to go back here now, and we're going to do now a checkbox group. Okay, the difference between a checkbox group and a checkbox is a checkbox is just the one checkbox, whereas a checkbox group, you can do different outcomes. Okay, so a checkbox would be normally, for example, customer wants email, or send customer email, and if you tick it, you can send it to an email task and it would send the email, for example. That requires a bit of scripting, but that's something that we'll look in another episode. And the checkbox group it's similar to the drop down. So if I was to go to checkbox group, you can see here now that I have the title and the value, and I've got the title here. So here I could put, for example, a question such as what household appliances do you have? Okay, the same. I'll remove the underscore. So I could put in here a list of different appliances. So I could put in TV and the value TV. I could put in cooker, microwave and dishwasher. Okay, if I was to save those settings as well, okay, and then go to the preview, you can see now that I can choose multiple options. I can choose 2, 3, 4, none. Okay, that's the difference between those options there. We're going to go now and create a different option. So we'll go to the date field. The date field is just simply, if we put in date, okay, it's put an underscore because date is normally an internal name within the dialer. So we'll put in reservation date. So you can see now that because it doesn't begin with date, it hasn't put the underscore in. And if I was to do the same again, save the field, and go to the preview, I could then now put in, if I was to put in text, so put in test, if I was to try and save that, it wouldn't let me do it. So I'd need to put in here, for example, the 8th of the 3rd, 2020. Okay, so that's basically the date field. We have another option which is the calendar field. Okay, so travel date, for example. Okay, and if I was to save this one again and then go to the preview, you can see now that I've got a calendar that I can select the information from. All right, so I could select the information from this particular calendar. If we go to another option now, we have the number field. So if I was to put in number of passengers, for example. Okay, I'm just thinking of examples where we use that information. So if we just click on the tick and then the preview again, if I tried to put any text in there, you can see it comes up in red. All right, if I was to put in a number, it will allow me to save that number in there. So I could put in like those numbers, I could put in 10,000. Okay, and when I click off it, it will automatically format it in number format. We're going to go and have a look now at the phone number field. Okay, if I go to phone number field and put in mobile number, okay, you can see it's filled out mobile number there. And if I click on the tick and then preview, okay, you can see it's got a green telephone next to it. It means that if I had a phone number here, I could call from here, and because it's within the same record, when I save it, it will save it against the record of the phone number here. Okay, let's have a look at the other options. Okay, we've got the autocomplete field. So this is where it will autocomplete based on a search. So you could type in like a search field and it would autocomplete that in that field. It does require scripting, so we'll look at that in a different episode. All right, we've got HTML. So the HTML, you can see here, it's created the actual HTML field. And if I come to edit it, I could put in some HTML. So I could put, this is a test, and then close that HTML. Okay, and if I was to click on the pencil, you can see now that it's put the HTML in there. All right, the HTML is quite good because you can use internally, you could put in these options here, and you could put in first name. Okay, and this HTML, what it would do is it would take the data from this first name field and it would put it here. So you could put, for example, hello, first name, and then if you wanted to, you could put in last name. Okay, and this would actually appear when it's formatted correctly. It would show hello, first name, last name. So you can create scripts that the agent would simply be able to read word for word. Okay, let's have a look at the other options. We've got here the options of buttons. Okay, we normally use this for creating what they call a transfer or a recording button. You can do like a blind transfer, a warm transfer. You can put someone on hold, for example. Okay, that again we'll look at in another episode. And then if we go down to the recording button, this is where you can have another button on the screen. So recording. Okay, if I was to save, okay, it won't let me change this one because there's no name. So we'll put in test on there. Alright, and if I was to go to the preview, you can see here now that I've got a button here to record. We've also got the option down here of the recording button, and this would actually do a second recording alongside the current recording. So you can do recordings that are a bit more specific. Instead of having to go through sort of an hour's phone call, you could actually have the agent click on that button and it would create a selective recording. It would record from that particular section, and when you click on it again, it will stop the recording. Okay. It's normally useful for terms and conditions or contract agreements, stuff like that. So look at the next option. Okay, so the next option that we're going to look at is the external web page. Basically, you click on that option, and here you would just put in the URL of the web page that you want to display, and also the height, so the amount of pixels that you want the web page to be high. Okay, and then once you've done that, obviously just save the settings and then click on the preview, and then it would show you that information. Okay, what I'll do is I'll just remove that option for the moment. Okay, in the form view, we've also got an option here where you can create sections. So if I was to go on this plus, I'll do it on this one here. Okay, I've got the option now to start a new section. So if I click on that, you can see now that it's created a new section. So this is in one section and this is in another. If we look here, if we save it and look at it, we can see now that we've got two different sections. Okay, this is useful if you want to hide sections or show sections depending on drop downs. They do require scripting as well, but it is something that is possible. And as I say, you can do that by different sections. You could have like sort of one section named one thing, another one named something else. And depending on what's selected in the drop down, you could have either one show or the other show. And then if we go, for example, if in a section, if we click on the plus again, you can see now we've got another option, which is start a new column. You'll see here now that it's created a new column, and if I was to save it, it should now split that page into two. So you can see now that I've got my information on two sides of the screen. Okay, you can split it various different ways, but what it will do is it will, the more columns you have, the more the smaller the section or the more narrow the section will be. Okay, I think with this we've actually covered all the different options in the form. There's one other thing as well. You can actually define here the width. So the width would basically be the amount of the page that's occupied. So let me just go back to our preview. Okay, you can see here that in here, or in this particular section, okay, I've got three options at the top. If I wanted to, I could make the title smaller and the first name and the last name bigger. Okay, what it does is it does this automatically. But if I was to do, for example, the title as 20 pixels, or 20% even, okay, the first name as 40%, and the last name as 40% as well. If I was to save that, and then go to the preview, you can see now that it's automatically spaced it out by that percentage. It's taken 20%, 40% and 40%. Okay. It's just a way that you can obviously format your forms and make them more more user-friendly to the agent. So yeah, I think I've probably covered all the different options within the forms. If you do have any questions, by all means, just send us an email and hopefully we can answer them for you. Thanks for watching.